that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 437th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and the astonishing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
You always say that, but you've never been here in any other form. Okay, every day I get to
That's not me, that's a virtual me.
That's the virtual you. Well, what they're seeing is not you in the studio, they're seeing you recorded, so I guess it is a virtual you. Anyway, every day I get up and I go to the internet and I find all the news I can about climate change and energy, and I put 10 to 15 articles about that up at my blog, goharvey.com. And you can go there and click on the individual entries that I have there. It goes up every day. We're starting this show on the 23rd. Today's show is the 23rd. We're starting on the 16th of September. And the other thing that you can do is either download the text document that I have that has all the photographs.
And it's got the links.
And it's got the links.
And sometimes those links are important because, as I occasionally mention, some of these articles are well worth reading.
Right.
If you've got the time.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is that there's a link to the website that Tom and I use for putting the show together. And you can go there and go find the link. So it's as I was about to say, some of these things are well worth reading. Absolutely.
But you got to figure out how to get to them to read them.
Well, I've tried to explain that very badly, but some people are very bright, and in my experience, if you are over about 22, you might not learn computers very fast. But if you're about 6 to 12 years old, you're right there. It's bizarre. Okay, we're starting on the 16th of September. Should we just go to that, Tom, or do you have more to say about something?
let's move to it.
Okay.
That's going
There's
there.
a picture.
And
That picture is
here.
the Byron nuclear
This is
plant.
going here.
Well, okay. That is the Byron nuclear plant. And
Byron is in what, Virginia?
I believe Byron is in Illinois.
I think you're right.
But yes, it's Illinois. But this story comes from HOI ABC, and HOI, I think, can that be a TV station? It doesn't sound like call letters. HOI ABC.
It would, if it was call letters, it'd have a W or a K in front of it.
That's what I would expect, yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know what it is.
What do I know? Anyway, as I said, this is from HOI ABC. Do you have a title for the
I do.
story?
Governor J.B. Pritzker signs legislation on climate change and renewable energy.
This has been a big story for weeks leading up to the time he signed it, and since. There were articles on it today, and this is a week old. Illinois is the first state in the Midwest to enact legislation combating the climate crisis and to build an economy for the future. Governor J.B. Pritzker signed legislation that requires the fossil fuel plants to close over time, and it rescues money-losing nuclear plants.
Well, they got to be rescued. I mean.
Well, or shut down. That was the choice.
No, you got to keep them running.
Well, the thing is, if they shut them down now,
yeah,
that would keep the coal plants open.
Yeah.
So the choice they've got is shut them down or keep the coal plants open. And
the coal plants right now don't make economic sense.
Neither does nuclear.
Neither really does nuclear.
Yeah.
But nuclear is paid for or something.
Well, you've got it there. It's more than that. When a nuclear plant has been paid down, and the Byron plant was probably paid down 25 years ago, but once the nuclear plant is paid down, its electricity is very cheap.
Yeah.
Okay. Coal burning plants.
Well, you got to keep buying the fuel.
Constantly. And, you know, refueling a nuclear plant is not trivial when it comes to money. It's like $100 million.
Oh, no, refueling a nuclear plant is not something you do in a weekend.
No. And the fuel very often has to be ordered a year in advance. So
Yeah, it probably does. Yeah.
you know, the utility said, we're going to shut this plant down unless you have a plan that supports us by Monday or something like that. And I was sitting there saying, did they order the fuel or did they not order the fuel? So,
Well, this bill, Senate Bill 2048, it combats climate change and invests in renewable energy. If you want to look it up, there's a long list of provisions
yes,
in this
there is.
bill.
And it closes down this kind of plant by that year and another kind of plant
It's
by another year.
complicated, but if you got the time to read it, it's something.
It is interesting
You're
to
not
see.
wasting your time.
And this is a big deal because Illinois has got a large population.
Yeah.
You know, there are people who even live outside of Chicago.
Are they really?
I used to live outside of Chicago. I live 35 miles from Chicago in a town that has more than doubled its population since I lived there. And when I lived there, I could walk from my house to farm fields in a block,
Okay.
but not
That's
anymore.
not anymore, right? Times, they are a-changing.
Times they are changing. Yeah, okay. Our next item.
Well, we got a picture here
We
of an
have a
electric
picture
car.
here of
Let's
a-
get that one up.
An Xpeng P5.
Well, Xpeng is the name of the company, isn't it?
Yes, it is, in China. And this is from Clean Technica.
Well, this is interesting because Xpeng is launching as 25,000 to 35,000 electric sedan. And that's at the very low end of the electric market.
That's low price. Okay, you got a title for this?
Xpeng launches 25,000 to 35,000 P5 electric sedan.
Yep.
This is shaking people up.
It is. Xpeng has just dropped a massive hammer on the Chinese EV market. They're not exporting these to the United States quite yet. Despite being a smart electric car, Xpeng's new P5 model has a starting price of just 160,000 to 230,000 yuan. And the yuan, which I am pronouncing improperly, it uses the same symbol as the yen. The word yen is actually derived from yuan, I believe.
It's the same symbol. I
It's
know
the
that.
same symbol, yeah.
I always considered it the same thing.
Yeah, well, they're not the same thing exactly, but this is after subsidies. It translates to $24,875 to $35,760, and
As it says in the title, 25 to 35 grand.
yeah. So they're going into the Chinese market with this, and as I said, I don't think that it's
Well, this is shaking people up because it compares with the Toyota Camry and the Honda Accord.
yeah.
Okay, and it apparently will have better performance, and the difference is largely between new, quote, smart EVs and older mindset or process that has a battle the inertia of how cars used to be designed
Yes.
and built. This is the future. Xpeng is there.
Yeah.
Interesting article, and there's a lot of pictures in this article.
Yes.
I mean, there's like 60 pictures.
Yes.
When I say a lot, I mean a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Our
Let's
next
move along
Our
here.
next
Another picture coming up.
article comes from Clean Technica.
And there's, I'll leave the picture up for a second.
Okay.
That's the Volkswagen Id4 Ev. So it's an electric vehicle.
Yep.
And it's sitting next to what looks like a gas pump, but it's really an electric pump, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it is. An electric pump. How do you pump electricity?
With great difficulty.
Oh, really? Do you have to count the individual electrons as they go in so you don't start
In
charging?
some jurisdictions, that's mandatory, yeah.
Yes.
They got a little guy with a clicker taking
With a clicker. Okay.
details of the House's U.S. EV incentive program, and that's the House of Representatives they're talking
Right.
about here.
The House Ways and Means Committee, which writes the tax code, worked through the energy portions of the Build Back Better Act. They reimagined the EV tax credit that consumers can get when they buy a new EV and added a credit for a second owner of an EV as well. So you can actually get a credit under this thing if you're buying a used EV.
Well, I got a lot of words about that when I explained the current credit.
Yeah.
$7,500, but the bill allows up to $2,500 if you do the right things. Okay, so the base credit is $4,000 to $3,500. $3,500 if you got a larger battery. I mean, this is complicated. 50%, if 50% or more of all the vehicle components are made in the U.S., including the battery, you get an additional $500. An additional, this is a biggie, $4,500 is available for vehicles manufactured in the U.S. by a unionized workforce. I wonder who had anything to do with that.
Maybe that's what the United Auto Workers were holding out.
Duh. A second owner of an EV can also qualify for an incentive of $2,500. The new credit has income caps for taking the credit. If you earn too much, you can't get the credits.
Yeah, and if you earn too little, you can't get the credits either because you're applying them to an income tax that doesn't exist.
That doesn't exist. Oh yeah, that's to the where it's not a cash credit.
No, it's not a cash credit.
Deduct from your income tax.
Yeah.
Let's move along to Friday, September 17th.
What a good idea.
And we got a nice picture of some trees here.
What this reminds me of is one of the last scenes in the movie The Big Trail, which was John Wayne as a young man.
I don't think I've seen that movie.
Well, it's an impressive movie. I think if I were teaching high school history of the United States, I think I'd show that movie in class if I could, or require the kids to see it, because it shows the first wagon train to go to Oregon. And
I think I've seen that movie.
Yeah, they have.
Is that a place where they're going off a cliff?
Yeah. They have wagons.
That's one of the first John Wayne movies, isn't it?
Very early. They have wagons that are the size of, they look like small school buses. They're so big.
Yeah.
And they come to a cliff and they have to build cranes to lower them down. And they actually do that. In the movie, they lower cattle down and horses.
I remember the movie. Yep.
And one of the wagons breaks free and tumbles over itself going down. But when they get to the end of the movie, they've gone to Oregon and they've wound up in a place that has a forest of trees like this. And you see John Wayne, and I forget the actress's name. He was, there was his love person in the movie.
Love interest.
Yeah, love interest, that's right. But she is standing at the base of one of these trees, and she is just tiny compared to and you look at this and you say, how could a tree be that big? Well, of course, the person who's been among these trees knows, and that's the reason why there's a Sequoia National Park.
Well, this is an interesting title for this story.
Yeah, why don't you read it?
California fires, quote, General Sherman and other sequoias given blankets.
This is from the BBC. And we will get back to this story with another story.
Yeah, we're going to touch
later.
something else on it.
Firefighters are wrapping fire-resistant blankets around ancient trees as the blazes tear through California's world-famous Sequoia National Park. Officials fear the fire will reach the giant forest, which is a section in that park with huge trees, within hours.
There's a short video on here that's worth watching. It's only 42 seconds. And this is how they describe the video. As ash pelts their vehicle, the video shows firefighters in Northern California driving through the Tamarack fire. So it's a short video, but it's worth looking at.
That is really scary.
Oh, it's scary.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no question about it.
Yeah, we should point out that these blankets, what do you think they are? They're taller than a person probably when they're
I would figure they're probably close to 20 feet.
Yeah.
They're big things.
They just wrap the base of the tree.
They wrap the base of the tree to keep the fire away from the bark.
Yeah. Now, the bark could burn, but it's not likely to burn fast.
Well, these trees are pretty fire resistant.
Yeah,
basically they've evolved into being fire resistant.
Yeah, but if they get dry and their leaves are dry, they can burn like crazy.
Well, a couple of years ago, we lost about 10,000 of them somewhere. We had
yes.
A section of this forest caught on fire and all the trees went.
Yeah, but the giant grove is apparently still okay.
Well, I got a little bit to say about that. The giant forest hosts some 2,000 sequoias, including the 270-foot German General Sherman, which is the biggest tree by volume on Earth, and about 2,500 years old.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that again in this show.
Yep.
The General Sherman is nearly 36 feet in diameter at its base. And you can just sort of see its base there.
Actually, I don't think that is the General Sherman there. I think those are smaller
Those
trees.
are other ones. We will see these early ones.
There's a bunch of them.
We will see it later
We will.
on.
We'll see the General Sherman, and people can understand how big that is because there's a bunch of people to compare it to.
Well, for comparison, this tree is 350 feet tall. The Statue of Liberty is 300 feet tall.
So it's taller than
Taller
the
than the
Statue of Liberty.
And there's a video in here. I think I said this already. As ash pelts their vehicle, the video shows firefighters in Northern California driving through the fire. Yeah, we did see that. That's kind of a scary video.
Okay, our next item.
Coming right up. Oh, this is nice. I like this.
Yeah, it's a picture of.
It looks like a drawing, but apparently it is really a photograph.
That's a photograph. Yeah, this is from Clean Technica.
It's It's near Lake Placid in New York.
Yeah, so it's.
And for those who don't know, Lake Placid is in the northern Adirondacks, almost at the Canadian border. And it's been all my life a resort town.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What do you have for title, Tom?
Moving from pain to gain on climate solutions.
Yep. Since the Paris Climate Conference in 2015, the cost of renewable energy has fallen to below that of coal. Yeah, but it's not just economics. There are also gains for the environment, health, energy security, and access. There's no longer a trade-off between development and climate mitigation.
Well, the article tells us what needs to be done, and I'll read them off because
Okay.
there's 5 of them.
Why don't you put yourself up instead of me? I think people get bored of me.
I get bored of you.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I don't blame you.
Well, what needs to be done is, number one, we vote for legislators who will make a difference.
Oh, wow. Imagine that.
I mean, that's, I can't argue with it.
Yeah.
The second one is decarbonize the electricity system and electrify everything. Well, that is going on slowly as we speak, really.
Yeah, slowly, unfortunately, not fast enough.
Well, the third one is important. Stop deforestation.
Yes, I could go with that.
Next one is wealthy countries need to change first and share the technology.
Well, if we're going to change the world, we're not going to do it by changing just ourselves.
Absolutely.
It's just the way it is.
And the next one is related to this. Don't dump old technology on the poorer parts of the world.
Yes, and there was an interesting item about that. I think we might have it in this program. If not, it'll be next week. But
there's a takeaway here
that's
worth looking at. A rapid energy transition would mean a net capital saving of over $5 trillion.
Now, Tom, if we could convince them to do that, we could say, just give us 10%.
You and I could retire. We wouldn't have to do this.
You could have 250 billion, and I could have 250 billion. What would you do with your 250 billion? I know what I'd do with mine. Should I tell you?
No.
I would give it to the state of Vermont and require the state to use it for having a big party.
That's a good idea.
It would probably go on for a year or more.
We got another picture coming up here.
Oh, we do.
Let's get a look at that picture here.
There we go.
Well, I got to get it
Now,
up.
this is not the actual testimony being given. This is just testimony before a House committee. You've lost your cursor.
I'm having a hard time finding my cursor. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Joe.
There you go.
Oh, I think he's got it.
There you go.
Testimony before the House committee.
Yeah.
House lawmakers launch an investigation. Come on, you. House lawmakers launch investigation into climate crisis disinformation by the fossil fuel industry. They wouldn't do a thing like that.
Why would they do that? The House Oversight and Reform Committee announced it is to investigate fossil fuel industry disinformation on the climate crisis. The committee invited the heads of 6 oil companies and lobbying groups to testify before it next month. Now, if you were the head of ExxonMobil and you were invited by the Congress to testify about this,
I would try to avoid going.
You think so? I'll tell you, I would think that that would be the last thing I'd want to do.
Yeah.
I'd probably get all my PR people together and figure out what to say. And by golly, they would be just as slick as you could possibly
get. Well, a couple of takeaways from here. First of all, there's a video here.
Yeah.
Minute and a half. ExxonMobil lobbyist unwittingly spills company secrets. So it's an interesting video.
Yep.
Lawmakers are deeply concerned that the fossil fuel industry has, quote, reaped massive profits for decades while contributing to climate change that is costing taxpayers billions and ravaging the natural world.
Yeah.
Okay, and this article is about an undercover video, which you can see by clicking on it, shows the ExxonMobil lobbyist admitting the company fought climate's policy and the science behind it.
I think that we actually had an article about that we talked about on the show.
I think we did,
it was months ago, but you know. Okay, we're up to Saturday, September 28th, and then we have a picture of offshore wind turbines. Yes, Tom, they are offshore wind turbines.
Let's see if I,
there you go.
I had the picture up already.
Yeah.
Duh.
Okay, and this is from Clean Technica. That last one, by the way, was from CNN.
Offshore wind turbines. The U.S. offshore wind industry has an electrifying future. Comes from Clean Technical.
Well, somebody at Clean Technica has a faulty sense of humor. The Offshore Wind Market Report 2021 version, written by a team of researchers at the Department of Energy and the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, says the U.S. offshore wind industry made great progress in 2020 and early 2021. The offshore wind pipeline grew 24% with 35,324 megawatts in various stages of development.
That's 35 gigawatts. Gigawatts and gigawatts.
Offshore wind has got a high capacity factor compared to other wind and solar.
Yeah, the wind always blows out there.
Yeah, and it gets very close to the capacity factor of natural gas. So, you know.
Well, growing turbine sizes, which we've talked about on the show.
Do they grow?
Well, the turbine sizes grow.
Oh, okay.
General Electric is up to almost, I can't even think of how many megawatts.
I think
I think it's 13, isn't it?
I think they have 14.
14 now.
And then there's is it Goldwind? There's a Chinese company that has one that's
even bigger.
Even bigger, yeah.
Well, what the article says is growing turbine sizes are the main drivers.
Yes.
Behind lower offshore wind costs. And the article goes on to say 3 leading manufacturers have announced the development of turbines up to 15 megawatts.
Okay.
So that's what we just said.
Yeah.
Companies are increasingly looking at offshore wind as a power source to produce green hydrogen.
Yes.
Which can be used in other sectors of the economy as a zero-emission fuel.
Yeah.
This is getting hot.
It is. And it's interesting because you've got a group of people who are saying green hydrogen isn't going to work. And then you've got another group of people who are saying
we want green hydrogen.
Yeah. And the money is flowing into green hydrogen.
Well, we've talked about it in Australia particularly.
Well, also...
They're getting hot on green hydrogen.
Yeah, they are. And there's a possibility. They're looking at Australia as kind of the best renewable energy place in the world.
I think it is.
And then they can export green hydrogen.
Well, the center of that country is nothing but desert.
Yeah.
And they're putting up...
they're trying to put up huge wind and solar farms.
Yeah.
And they're talking about exporting green hydrogen to Japan and other places. Singapore, yeah.
So download this report. You can get the report from the Clean Technical article.
Yeah.
If you want to read it. It's a big report.
Okay, our next item is...
we got another picture here coming up.
We have a picture of a
house with a solar system on the roof.
And a swimming pool. I don't think I'd like living in that house.
You don't think so?
No, I don't like swimming pools.
Don't like what?
Swimming pools.
Oh,
Swimming is the art of staying alive in the water.
it is that.
Yeah. Okay, this is...
Well, it's a rooftop solar system, according to the
Yep.
article.
And we have the article is from Clean Technica.
Toss, repair, or recycle solar panels? How human behavior affects the fate of old solar panels. This is a problem we haven't encountered yet, but we're going to.
People have been looking into how to
They've been looking
recycle.
into it, but they haven't figured out
Yeah.
really the answer yet.
By 2050, there will be, or could be, 80 million metric tons globally of solar PVs reaching the end of their lifetime, with 10 million metric tons in the United States alone. The National Renewable Energy Lab's researchers addressed this in an article published in the journal Nature Energy. And they are looking into how to...
Well, they have. I got a couple of words to say about this.
Yeah, okay.
First of all, PV modules do not encourage recycling.
Yes.
Okay? They're difficult to separate, and the process recovers mostly low-value materials. Because of this, there is currently not enough revenue from recycling to offset the costs. Therefore, very little mass is recycled. This could lead in later days to a major waste problem.
Well, it could, except for one thing, and that is, as we move forward with this technology, the technology itself is
going to take care of it, because people are looking at this and saying this is a business opportunity.
Absolutely. And that business opportunity is not just in recycling solar panels, it's also in designing and building solar panels that are easier to recycle.
That can be recycled.
Yeah.
And they got to be working together on this, because
Absolutely.
they're looking at it as a business opportunity. It's going to happen.
Absolutely. Okay.
Let's move along
Our next
here.
item is from CNN. That is an LNG, liquefied natural gas
That's an interesting looking ship, isn't it?
Sometimes they have balls like that in the hull of the ship, and they're covered over it so that
So you can't see them.
you really don't see them. But there it is out in the open.
So that's full of liquefied natural gas.
Or it could
Or
be
something like it.
It could be that it's just been emptied and it's riding high. It's hard to tell. I don't know how much the hull goes down from.
Well, you can sort of see a line.
Okay.
You look at the stern.
Okay.
I
sort of see a line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you have for a title?
Biden. Who's he?
I forget.
Biden announces global goal to reduce planet warming. And this is about methane emissions.
Right. President Joe Biden announced the U.S. and EU have launched a global pledge to reduce emissions of methane, a potent greenhouse gas, by nearly 30% by the end of the decade. Methane emissions are driven by fossil fuels, coal mining, and agriculture. And I should point out, methane is the active ingredient in natural gas. So
natural gas basically is methane.
Yeah, so it's a product of fracking. It's a product of natural gas wells. It's,
basically fracking.
Yeah, at this point, basically fracking.
Well, Biden described the report from the UN as a code red for humanity.
Yes.
Okay? The world is at an inflection point for climate action. This is Biden talking. For climate action, something that presents real, incredible economic opportunity.
Right.
So if the opportunities are there, someone's going to take advantage of it.
I think that's true.
It's just going to take a little while.
Okay, we're up to Sunday, September 19th, and we have a
Can't
picture
dance.
of
We
fish.
got a whole bunch of fish there, and one of them's out of step.
The one in the lower right-hand corner.
He's mixed up.
I don't know, maybe he's telling the other ones where to go.
You mean like he's a sergeant, huh?
Yeah, something like that.
A drill sergeant. School of Fish. Huh?
There it is.
How did they
Right.
come up with that title?
That's just the title of the
Blue
picture.
Food Revolution can help solve climate change, malnutrition, and economic crises.
Research shows how aquatic food sectors can play a vital role in providing healthy diets and more sustainable, equitable, and resilient food systems across the globe. The proceedings of the study, that's what it says, were published in the journal Nature. And of course what they're saying is you get your protein from fish and other ocean animals, You get your animal protein anyway, and you eat seaweed and
Now, the article is promoting the use of what they call blue foods,
yes,
aquatic food sectors.
right. That was from a Republic World, and now our next item has my favorite picture.
Oh yeah, this is a nice picture here.
This is my favorite picture of the week. This looks like some kind of dystopian science fiction movie.
Well, for those that want to know, that is an oil platform.
There
It's
it
only
is.
one iteration of an oil
Yeah,
platform.
it's the
but
only one I've ever seen on a monopile.
on a monopod there. I wonder where it is.
I don't know, but that thing is about from the bottom of the area that people work on.
That's about 7 stories.
It's
8
about
stories
7
tall.
stories, yeah. So this thing is, I don't know how many people could live on that, but my bet is it could be 150.
Well, I think that upper right corner is like a hotel for
It
these
might
guys.
be, yeah.
I mean, they got to live somewhere.
They have to live somewhere.
You know, they're not putting cots out on the deck.
Oh, they could. You know, they could be as just mean as they
Hot
could
days,
possibly
I'm sure they
imagine.
do, but
Yeah. I used to live in a house that had 2 gigantic porches screened in so people could sleep on the porches. You'd have like a men's porch and a women's porch.
yeah.
And they were big enough that maybe 8 people could sleep on each. And during the summer when things were hot, we didn't have any air conditioning in that house at all.
Well, we had a summer house, and I slept on the porch.
Did you?
And then we got some windows, and it was closed in. But first, it was a screen porch.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me any.
Well, yeah. Okay, this is from CNN. What do you got?
In Canada and Germany, the climate crisis is finally on the ballot. But can it win?
Climate change rarely makes or breaks an election. That might change in the future, but the tide appears to be turning. The climate crisis is finally on the ballot. In Canada and Germany, it has become an important issue, and political parties supporting climate action are gaining strength. The Blue Party in Germany has been around for a Blue Party. I'm thinking of this last article with blue food. The Green Party in Germany has been growing in strength for years and years and years. We've been kind of
People are
watching.
starting to pay attention to what they've been saying.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, British Columbia just reached an emergency last week because it got very, very hot there.
Yes.
Okay. More than 2 months after wildfires tore through the province. So the heat waves supercharged the fires. And they say that's virtually impossible without the greenhouse gases trapped in the atmosphere,
Yes.
which are now, by the way, at the highest concentration in more than, are you ready for this number? 800,000 years.
Yeah, there you
It's
go.
been a while.
Well, the thing is that, I could sit down and talk about the various things climate change has done to us
Well,
already.
so do we do that on this show.
Yeah, we do, and we could sit down and just talk about that for hours, just chatting, because we've seen the stuff. Okay, our next one.
Well, there's a little takeaway. You talked
okay.
about the Greens.
Yeah.
And they're the only ones calling for an immediate end to more oil and gas exploration.
Yes.
They want to phase out oil production altogether by
Altogether.
2035.
I think it would be a very nice idea.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And the truth of it is, it's doable. It's not necessary at all.
Absolutely. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica.
Oh, I like this plane.
That is a very interesting plane.
That's an interesting plane.
You'll notice the
I'm gonna put that up.
Rolls-Royce symbol right in the middle of it.
That's what it says.
Yep.
That's called the spirit of innovation.
Sure is. What do you have for a title?
Rolls-Royce electric airplane takes flight. Duh.
This is from Clean Technica. Rolls-Royce Aerospace has been a leader in developing electric propulsion systems for airplanes in order to help lead the world toward a future of zero emissions flight. The company has been working on fastest electric airplane able to fly at over 300 miles per hour. Now they have flown it. Not at 300 miles per hour.
Well, they've been working on this airplane for quite a while.
Yep.
And they reached the milestone because it flies faster than 300 miles an hour, which they were working on. So it's the fastest electric airplane ever built.
Yeah.
Okay, and for the heck of it, for comparison, the Wright brothers' first powered flight lasted how long?
47 seconds? I forget.
12 seconds.
12 seconds, okay.
Didn't last very long.
This thing was in the air for 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's a little bit better than 12 seconds.
That was a test flight, and in 15 minutes, if they were going 300 miles an hour, they would have gone.
Well, they just said that
75
United
miles.
Airlines has ordered 100 of these things.
United Airlines ordered 100
Yep.
of these?
The electric short-haul passenger planes to be delivered by the end of this decade.
Now here, that plane looks to me like it's not a passenger plane. It looks like it's a plane specifically built for racing.
I think you're right, but I think they've ordered
100
short-haul
short-haul
passenger planes. So it's a
we've seen
different
this,
plane.
We've seen this coming. It's been a couple of years since Harbor Air made a deal to convert all of their planes, which are short-distance planes, to
Well, in parts of the
electric.
country, like the Pacific Northwest,
Right.
especially where there's a lot of islands,
Yeah.
the only way you get around is with these short-haul planes.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the market they're going after.
That's right. And the planes, Harbor Air was called Harbor Air. All of its planes were seaplanes, and all of them are being converted to electric. They're all short-haul airplanes. They don't fly long distances.
We're talking 50 to 100 miles at the most.
Exactly. And they carry people with gear, whatever, for over these distances. And
They're sort of like taxi cabs.
they're kind of like taxi cabs. That's right. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, we got a Pippolini here.
A Pippolini. That does not look like a. That looks like a pipoon.
It's a natural gas Pippolini.
Pipoon.
Climate Trace, TRACE, capitals, lifts the veil on oil and gas emissions. This is an important article.
Yeah, this is from Clean Technica. The production and refining processes for oil and gas account for about 1/10 of human-made greenhouse gases. Now, I want to make clear here, the business of refining these, not transporting them, not burning them, not whatever, just refining these things is 10% of our greenhouse gases.
Production and refining processes, it
Right.
says, account for 1/10
That
of
is a
human
big deal.
greenhouse gases.
Yeah.
So we got to stop refining this stuff, don't
There
we?
you go. Making this sector one of the world's largest emitters. With a
So
launch
just getting oil and gas out of the ground
and then
is
refining.
emitting.
Absolutely. And then refining it. You've got these big refineries down
Yeah.
in Louisiana and so forth.
Well, with this, I guess you'd call it a program called Climate Trace
Yes.
Capitals, we're closer to clear answers about where these greenhouse gases are coming from.
Now, we're talking about things that can be done like examining the atmosphere from satellites.
That's just what they're saying. Direct observation using satellites.
And so you
remote
can,
sensing.
You can look at these things and say, this is the place on the map where
That's
this is
where it's coming from. Absolutely.
Oh, you mean this is a
As
refinery?
it says here, it
Well, by
identifies
golly.
when and where greenhouse gases are emitted.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, can't dance.
Okay, that is
This is an interesting thing.
orange bottle. It's a very interesting bottle.
Well, I can't get the picture up, but I've got an exploded view of that.
Okay.
And inside of it is a very conventional battery,
Yeah.
okay? But because these are intended to be used in space,
You
okay?
have to have a special shape for them.
Well, you gotta
have to
you
be
gotta
able
have
to
something that's
hold-
not gonna freeze for one thing.
Yeah, and you've
so that's
gotta
why
be-
they got hydrogen in it.
Yeah, and you've got to have something that is going to be able to hold the pressure.
So it's a nickel hydrogen battery with hydrogen as the electrolyte instead of an acid.
Oh man, hydrogen is almost an acid by itself. It's a very weird thing. Anyway, let me read this. U.S. startup Evervenue, what a weird name, Enervenue, secured funding for a gigafactory to make nickel hydrogen batteries for large.
That's going to be in the U.S.
Yeah, applications. The battery efficiency is 80% to 90%. I'm going to say that's a ho-hum. There are better batteries and there are worse batteries. On the cycle rate and its
Well,
energy
there's nothing
density.
wrong with 80 to 90.
No, it's fine. It's not extraordinarily high, it's not extraordinarily low. And its energy density per square foot is at least equal to lithium-ion batteries, according to the company. Now, the interesting thing about this is there's no lithium involved. There's no cobalt involved. There's nickel.
Which is relatively cheap.
It's relatively cheap, yeah.
And hydrogen's cheap.
I don't know where you get hydrogen.
Electrolysis of water.
I don't. Do you?
Well, a nickel hydrogen battery uses gaseous hydrogen as its electrolyte.
Yes.
Which permits you to use it in the coldness of space.
Yeah, you
like
could
satellites.
use that at temperatures that are cold enough.
Way below zero.
Way below zero. I mean, we're talking about temperatures where maybe nitrogen, ammonia would freeze.
And as you can tell by the picture, it's a pressurized cell.
Yes.
Okay, it has extremely long life, 15 years or more.
Yes.
And this blows my mind. The cells can handle more than 20,000 charge cycles.
Well, you've got to have something that's going to be able to do that if you put it up in space.
20,000 is a lot.
Yeah, but this is going to go in space.
One a day is like 5 years.
Yeah, you don't replace these things.
No, they go up there and they stay there.
That's right.
Well, nickel hydrogen batteries have been used extensively in aerospace, such as satellites, and have shown good reliability, stability, and durability. So their utilization for terrestrial applications, however, is hampered by the high costs of the platinum catalysts used for their production.
Platinum does tend to be expensive.
They're just using them to make the damn thing. There's no platinum in the final product.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's a matter of costs.
Yeah.
Economics.
Okay. That was
Here we go. We go
PV
again. We're looking at
Magazine.
General Sherman again.
We promised you General Sherman, and there is General Sherman.
And there he is, and it says right underneath it is General Sherman.
Now that's an old picture. That picture is something like 40 years old.
It probably is because you see the way the people are dressed.
Yeah, but you can see these people are tiny compared to that tree. That tree is utterly gigantic.
Well, it is the largest tree by mass in the world.
I'll tell you, if that tree were growing in my backyard,
you wouldn't have a backyard.
It would be the only thing in my backyard, and the neighbors would be complaining about it pushing the fences over on both sides.
Well, the KNP complex fire is reaching part of Sequoia National Park's giant forest, which we've talked about. And it's threatening some of the world's largest trees.
Yeah, the KNP complex fire in California reached a small area of the giant forest in Sequoia National Park, home to some of the world's largest trees. The fire officials said they have spent recent days preparing the trees for the threat of fire. You know, the wrappings around
Well, I'll
the base
just tell you
of
what they're doing.
Okay.
The base of the world's largest tree has been wrapped in an aluminum-based burn-resistant material and has not been impacted by the fire. Thus far, the blaze has scorched more than 22,000 acres.
Yeah.
The KNP, what's KNP stand for? I should know that.
I don't remember.
The KNP complex, that's what they call this, fire, was 0% contained as of last Saturday.
0% is not a high percentage.
Not very high. There are more than 600 personnel battling it. And the Sequoia National Park has been closed to the public for the duration.
Now, I want to point out this fire has reached the area that we were worried about, the giant forest, but it reached a small part of the giant forest. The trees
They're keeping it away from...
This tree is not threatened as far as we know.
Well, these trees are priceless. I mean,
oh, yeah.
You know,
well,
3,000 years old.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, we are up to Tuesday, September 21st.
I think we are.
And we have a picture of a LightSource BP solar farm. LightSource, by the way, owns, I think it's 43% of LightSource BP. So they do have an interest. By the way, look at this picture. Right in the middle of it, toward the bottom, is a tractor.
Yep. I would expect them to be higher so the tractor could drive underneath.
Well, it depends upon how the tractor could be there for
What's that in the
reasons.
middle in the upper right of the corner of the picture? It looks like another tractor.
Oh yeah, you're right. If they're putting sheep under those things, they wouldn't have to have them higher.
No, they wouldn't.
Okay, this is from Reuters.
Well, that's a LightSource BP solar farm.
Yep.
And BP has bought LightSource.
bought a
or a
large part of
big
it.
hunk of it.
But what do you-
BP gambles big on fast transition from oil to renewables.
Now, BP is following in the footsteps of Danish oil and natural gas in this.
Which used to be Danish oil. It's something
then-
else again now.
Ørsted.
Ørsted, right.
It used to be a major oil and gas company. Now it is the world's biggest offshore wind company and has no fossil fuel assets
No fossil
at all.
fuels at all. So Danish oil and natural gas no longer exists.
Exactly. Oil major BP agreed to sell a third of its majority stake in a very profitable project earlier this year. The deal exemplifies a larger strategy to liquidate the company's fossil fuel assets, to raise cash for investments in renewable energy products that BP itself concedes won't make money for years.
Well, this isn't a picture of it, but BP's Omani natural gas project is among the world's largest natural gas fields. Now, Oman sticks out like a sore thumb from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an island. I think it's a
No,
peninsula.
Oman is actually part of the peninsula. Yeah.
But it's not Saudi Arabia.
No, not
And
Saudi
it sticks
Arabia.
right out.
Yeah.
And it's among the world's largest natural gas fields. There's
Yeah.
a lot of gas under the Persian Gulf.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's there for years. It's being exploited on both sides of the Gulf, and there's plenty to go.
Yes.
So BP's Omani, well, I said one of the world's largest natural gas fields, it earned more than $650 million in profits.
And they're getting rid of it.
And they're getting rid of it.
Yeah.
Oil majors facing mounting pressure from regulators and investors worldwide to develop cleaner energy and divest from fossil fuels.
Absolutely. This fossil fuel thing is going to be, that oil and gas field is going to be a stranded asset at some point.
I think so, because it's already not barely worth it to extract.
Yeah.
Already.
Okay. Our next item is from BBC. And here we have
We've got
a picture
of here. Let's get the
empty
picture
shelves in a supermarket. You've already
Well, they're
got
not
it up.
empty on the left. There's a lot of booze on the shelf there.
But on the right,
There's
it looks
nothing there.
It looks like potato chips, and that's about it.
Everything's gone.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have a big. All she's buying is wine.
Well, maybe if you don't have food, wine might make things.
Why
a little
is
easier.
there a CO2 shortage? And how will it hit food supplies? This is significant.
This is an interesting article. It really is. I had not known about stuff in this article until I read it.
I'm with you.
And,
I learned a lot from the article.
Yeah.
I mean, CO2 was used in a lot of places that
Yes, indeed.
I just took for granted.
Absolutely. When two large UK fertilizer factories stopped work because of soaring wholesale gas prices, they also stopped producing CO2, a byproduct. This means that there has been a cut in 60% in the UK's food grade CO2 supply, and CO2 has a lot of uses for food.
Well, I'll give you some of the uses.
Yeah.
Carbonated drinks, beer and soda.
Although if you're making beer, if you're making beer, you can carbonate it naturally.
The beer generates its own carbon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
But
makers of fine
commercially,
ale.
they got to add a little bit more to
Well,
it.
if you're making fine ale, it makes sense to do it that way.
Yeah.
It's done in the bottle.
Or Pepsi Cola.
But if you're making it in huge containers, it doesn't make sense to do it that way anymore. What you do is force carbon dioxide into it. I have done that both ways.
Another thing it's used for is boosting growth of plants in greenhouses. I think we've mentioned that on the show.
We have talked about that.
And extending shelf life of packaged food products.
Yeah, you put CO2 in, and the oxygen that supports.
Well, I could talk to that. I like these fat pretzels.
Yeah.
And I buy them over the internet.
Yeah.
And the last fat pretzels I got, usually they come individually wrapped, and they last a while. I got a bunch of them where they were all in one bag, and they all went moldy.
Oh.
So I got a refund on them, but I was interested on eating them, not getting a refund.
Yeah.
Well, another thing is keeping food fresh in transport using dry ice.
Oh, yes.
There's medical uses for it. It's used in a nuclear plant as a coolant. And finally, fire extinguishers, life rafts, life jackets, and as a liquid solvent. There's a lot of uses.
A lot of uses.
For CO2 that we don't even think about.
Yeah.
And where does it come from? Humans and animals breathing. It comes from combustion and when things ferment or decompose.
Right.
So in the Earth's atmosphere, increased levels of CO2 have been contributing to global warming.
Right. Right. A very important chemical, but
Very important
out of
chemical.
control in the atmosphere. Okay. Our next item is from CNN.
This is the Turo mine.
Yes, and it's I don't know, the video that was with this I found disturbing.
Well, it's an open pit mine. I think they're...
And if you look at the picture, in the upper left-hand corner of that picture, you can see that there is a village or a town up there.
Right in the upper left. Boy, they're close to the mine.
They're close to the mine.
And those are the people that are complaining.
I don't
That's
know.
what this article's about.
Well, you've got people complaining about it who live in Czechoslovakia. Or
Well,
in
that could
the
very
Czech
well
Republic
be
or
Czechoslovakia.
Chechnya.
This is right on the border.
It is on the border. And then you've got a bunch of people who are really happy with that mine. They want to keep it open, and they are people who live in Poland, in a town that is not only made up of mine workers and so forth, but
Well, it's a big part of their economy.
it is
The part of their economy.
that town is legendary for being wealthy, and the reason it's legendary for being wealthy
Is because of the mine.
because of the mine. Now,
Poland ordered to pay a $58,000 fine for each day it continues operating a controversial coal mine.
it wasn't 58,000, Tom. It was
$58,000. Well, 50,000 euro.
Hold on a second. I've just lost my video. Check that and see if it isn't 500,000.
You're right. It is. I'm reading it wrong.
Yeah.
It's 500,000.
Yeah. Okay. I will have this back in a moment. I was stunned by the fact that they talked to girls who were in the equivalent of the Girl Scouts or whatever, and these girls called themselves environmentalists, and they were really interested in the environment, and they didn't see any problem with having that coal mine open. As far as they were concerned, it
Well,
was just
Poland
grand.
doesn't seem to have any problem with it either. They're going to pay the fine.
Yeah. But, this is like, we're going to give you a $500,000 a day fine. Okay, but, if we close it down, then we've got 2,500 people out of work. And, how do you choose between those two?
Well, there's an interesting and provocative video on this website.
Yeah.
It's almost, 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well worth looking at.
Yeah.
And the European Commission has ordered Poland to stop operations at the mine in May. And
It just keeps
Poland
going.
is just giving them the middle finger.
Yeah. Okay, we should keep going, Tom. We're coming close to the end of the show. And
Well, we're on Wednesday.
We're up to Wednesday, and we have
A
a
picture of,
a
that's a car, isn't
That's
it?
a Chevy Bolt, which is their all-electric car, and this is from Clean Technica.
And it says that GM says it has fixed the Chevy Bolt battery problem, and new cells are already in production. They were catching on fire.
They were, this was not a lot of fires. This was maybe a dozen of them.
Well, they don't want any.
They don't want any. And if you compare that to gas-powered cars that have fires, a dozen is not many.
They don't want any at all.
No, they
And
don't.
It's bad publicity for
And
something coming out,
gas-powered-
brand new product on the
gasoline
market.
cars, when they catch fire, it's impressive, as you know.
Oh, absolutely.
I've seen it
I
happen.
mean, a battery fire is bad, but a gas tank fire is super, super bad.
Yeah. Okay.
You got a gas tank fire, get out of the area.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to be nearby. Good news, GM and LG say they have solved the battery cell in manufacturing defect that led to several battery fires. LG stopped producing the cells in August, but resumed production recently. That is to say, they stopped in August, they started again in September. GM says it will begin replacing battery packs in October. So if you've
That's
got
retroactive. They're going back to you.
yeah, they're going back. They're recalling the cars to be replaced. They had earlier.
Well, they say they have corrected the defects.
Yeah.
It ain't going to happen again.
And the person who, I think it was the person who wrote this article, it might have been somebody else, but it was a writer for Clean Technica, said that they had got a recall notice from a car company that said don't park near other cars until we
Yeah.
But it wasn't a battery car. It was an all gas car.
Is that so?
Yes. It was,
That sounds like somebody goofed.
So she's writing this article, and yeah, somebody goofed. But gas-powered cars have got this too, and the technology for the battery cars is relatively new, so it's going to be addressed.
Well, a battery burning up is not a good thing, but
No.
a car gas tank exploding is.
I think I've told you that I had a friend, died recently, unfortunately. He was a good friend, who got a call. He was a consultant and writer, and he got a call from a consulting agency, and he lived in New Jersey, and they said, am I right that you own a gun?
Huh?
Yeah. So he said, yes. And the person said, could you use that for us? It's like he's going to be a hitman on a battery. He was hired to go to a brownfield site
And
that they
shoot
had
at a battery?
chosen because it would be okay to shoot a battery there. And he put a battery there and shot it. And he said he used it.
I hope they paid him well for this.
Yeah. When he used a 380 automatic pistol, which is not a powerful pistol at all, and when he shot the battery, it was smoking within 60 seconds.
Wow.
So
we
anyway,
got a picture coming up
we
here.
have a picture of
This is Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping, and he is the president of China. This is from CNN.
Well, he's promising to halt new coal projects abroad amid the hybrid, just abroad,
Not in
amid the
China.
climate process.
Well, they will halt in China. You watch.
Oh, they will, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. He wants to continue selling things to other countries, and he knows that the coal is under pressure. So he's selling the PVs and wind turbines.
Well, China consumes more coal than all other countries in the world together in 2020.
Yep. Did you read the title? I've forgotten.
China's Xi Jinping promises to halt
Yes.
new coal projects abroad amid the climate crisis. So he's not touching the home front.
Chinese President Xi Jinping made a key climate pledge in a pre-recorded address. This picture is not a picture of the address. To the UN General Assembly. China will not build any new coal-fired power plant projects abroad and will increase financial support for low-carbon energy projects over developing countries. This is hugely to the Chinese advantage. So, I think we could go on to the next one.
I think we should.
Okay. Our next picture here is of Appalachia.
That could be Vermont.
It could be.
Nice picture, anyhow.
It is indeed. And I looked, I couldn't figure out where that picture came from. It just said Appalachia. So
Well, Appalachia's a long range of
it's somewhere between Georgia and Maine. That's all I can tell you.
That's basically it.
This is from Clean Technica.
Appalachia poised to become clean energy country.
In the clean energy transition, many fear that coal-dependent regions like Appalachia, and I think what they're talking about is central Appalachia.
It says stretching from Alabama to Pennsylvania.
Right.
And I certainly think that the Catskills and the Greens and the White Mountains are all part of Appalachia.
Let's see. Many fear that coal-dependent regions like Appalachia will lose out or be left behind. But the Rocky Mountain Institute analysis challenges that assumption. It says that Appalachia could be where the biggest economic benefit from the deployment of wind and solar projects happens in the next decade. And I got to tell you, I believe it, because they've got 500 mountaintops that have had coal plants remove the mountain.
Yeah, I've seen them.
And there they are. And why not develop that for solar farms, for example? It's not going to be used for agriculture.
Well, the part of the world they call Appalachia has done a lot of coal mining over
Yes.
the years. And,
Yes.
and since coal mining is no longer being profitable, these people are out of work. They're closing the mines down, and these were good paying jobs.
Yeah, and you can get good paying jobs replacing those
You got to do something, but
coal
yes,
jobs.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay, we are at the end of our time, Tom.
Wow.
So we are going
We
to
must
wish
be having
everybody.
a good time.
Yeah, I think so. We will be wishing everybody to have a satisfyingly magnificent week.
Something like that. You'll come back and visit us, you hear?